Hello, and welcome to the review of Champions. I am your host, Grandmaster. With me is Mr. Taylor first. We're going to talk about Captain America the Winter Soldier today. Uh, the first three movies after the Avengers focused on continuing the story of the big three Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. But where Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World received some mixed reviews, to say to put it mildly, especially among the fandom, the next outing in the Captain America franchise is still being hailed as one of the best movies Marvel Studios have ever made. Captain America the Winter Soldier is until this very day in the conversation of the best MCU movie. Is it? We'll talk about it. This movie was directed by Joe and Anthony Russo. Their first, but certainly not their last MCU movie. In fact, as we will come to see later in the series, eventually they took over the Avengers franchise from Josh Whedon. Needless to say, we have a lot to discuss about this movie and the effect it had on the franchise and the story of the Infinity Saga, which we are reviewing. Well, Taylor, let's jump right into it. Is Captain America the Winter Soldier the best MCU movie?
No,
Oh,
but it is
no.
one of the best.
That's an opinion I agree with. Actually, I also don't think it's the best. There are quite a few actually I like more. Actually, the next one we're going to talk about that next month. I like that
hmm
even more than this one, but it's just personal taste. But it's definitely a very good movie in my book. Um, did you like the style change that I mean, Joe Johnson introduced Captain America in back in the 40s and set in the story set in the 40s with a very Rocketeer style movie, and Joe and Anthony Russo made Captain America very cool. That's what the fans always say. What did you think when you saw this movie for the first time?
I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be in the same sort of style as the first Avenger, because that was kind of because it was set in the 40s. They chose to do a 40 esque style to it, a World War II type style to it, a more pulpy comic book look style to it, and in this one, of course, it's set in contemporary times, and they made it feel very contemporary. So I think that's actually a smart way to go. Um, you have to have some, baseline for the entire universe where you can't get too out of the box, but you can play around with different things within the same universe. It doesn't all have to be exactly the same, which I think is one of the reasons that the MCU has been so successful and has been able to be so expansive, is that they don't always have to do the exact same thing or even have the exact same feel or tone to their movies.
Yeah, I agree. The start immediately. Let's just talk about the whole movie in sort of like go from the start to finish. It starts with that. Actually, it starts with the introduction of a new character. I should say, Sam Wilson, the Falcon. Uh, do you think he's very well cast? Do you think he's a great Falcon?
Yeah, I think he was a great Falcon. I think they did a really good job of introducing him in this movie. I think they did just the right amount of introduce the character, mention this Falcon program
Hmm.
thing that's out there, mention a little bit about his background. He was an Air Force pararescue special operations uh, operator. So all the pieces are there in place. They mentioned the whatever they call, I can't remember the exact code name for the Falcon Wing project, whatever it was called. But they planted that seed early, and then of course he adopted it later on, and boom, we've got the Falcon, who is of course a classic comic book character, a historic partner for Captain America from way back in the comics. I think the actor Anthony Mackie does a great job with it. I think he's a great Falcon. I think he's a less great Captain America, but that's not what we're talking about today. But
No.
not that he's bad, not that he's bad, but I think he's really good as the Falcon, and I think this movie did a really great job of introducing that character.
Yeah, I agree, and it's funny they take this they that start on your left during the start, and then they do that callback later in Endgame when we get to it. We'll probably talk about that scene. But yeah, it's to me you immediately know a lot about him, and
Right.
you know. I also like that little detail where Steve Rogers takes out his notebook and writes down all the things that he needs to watch and see to catch up on culture, pop culture, what he has missed in the last 70 years. Did you actually know that the notebook and the list that is in the notebook is different in several countries?
I have heard that, but I
Yeah,
didn't know for sure that that was completely true. Like, it may make sense, of course.
yeah. It is true. But to me, that's very funny. Of course, then he gets picked up by the Black Widow to go on a mission. And what a mission it is. It has actually repercussions in a running TV show, which is MCU adjacent. I know we should not get into a debate whether or not it's canon. We had the debate a lot in the past, but MCU adjacent TV series Agents of Shield
Right.
changes that as well. That attack, and it set off a lot of things in motion that will change the universe forever. Let's talk about it. What did you think about that action scene on the boat, and then yeah, the
It was great.
consequences of that? Yeah.
It was just great. It was just a terrific action scene. Um, and this particular entry in the MCU, I don't like to use the word grounded, but it's at a particular level of technology and powers and things like that are present in this particular story.
Hmm.
But they make the absolute best of it. So this movie, feels like an action movie. It could be a James Bond movie. It could be a Jason Bourne movie. It could be a John Wick movie. It doesn't have as magic. It doesn't have aliens. It has some super technology and some really amazing things, and of course, it has a super soldier. But
Hmm.
it feels very uh, what's the word, real. It feels
Yeah,
almost possible to a
yeah.
large degree. And of course, that action scene, opening action scene on the ship was just a great all around action scene. And of course, they introduce the other thing that MCU does really really well is just have these side characters from the comics who are just there a little bit and they may come back later, which of course they usually do. So in this one, you had George St. Pierre, the UFC fighter who was playing Batroc, the Leaper, who is a lower tier villain in the comics, and we do
Hmm.
see him later in another TV show. But again, just opportunity for a great fight scene and great action scene. And as you mentioned, this whole movie, of course, has massive impact on Agents of Shield, and I think it pretty much kicks off a couple of season storylines worth for
Hmm.
Agents of Shield.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, after this attack on the Lumerian Star is the name of the ship. Of course, Captain America gets the job done. Black Widow gets her job done, which is annoying to Steve at the moment at
Hmm.
that time. Um, he actually pays a visit to Nick Fury, his boss at Shield, and they visit three helicarrier carriers that are being built in below the river. I don't know the name of the river. You probably do, but in downtown Washington,
Hmm.
there's a shipyard or whatever. They're building those helicarriers, and they talk about taking out threats before they happen. Um, when you saw that, what were your thoughts with that? Is the discussion that he had with Dick Fury, and then he visited the Smithsonian to see his own
Hmm.
display there. It's just and he visits Peggy,
Yep.
Peggy Carter, who's an old woman now,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which also now later in this universe story has a different feel to it, if you know what I mean. But we don't know that
Mm-hmm.
at the time. But that whole scene where it settles down and they set some pieces and set up the story for the movie. Um, how was that for you?
Well, all of those things you mentioned, of course, are the character development of Steve Rogers. Um, this, of course, seeing his how he's torn between these two worlds, his past life and his new life that he's been thrust into. Um, Peggy, and then the museum visit. You know, the list that you mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
All of that is just showing us his mindset and just how overwhelming this whole situation that he's in really is. But at the same time, he is still trying to do his duty. Now, when they reveal the helicarriers and their purpose, he's obviously not comfortable with it because he sees the potential for abuse and bad things coming from this particular technology and this plan for how it's
Hmm.
going to be used. And of course, that tells the audience that this is not this is not going to be good. Something is going to go wrong with these things.
Yeah, and we actually Nick Fury takes to heart what Steve Rogers is saying and does some digging.
Right.
And pretty soon after, he gets attacked on his way home, I guess,
Yep.
on the road in another awesome action scene slash car chase, by the way.
Yeah.
And for the first time in this movie, the title character, the other title character, I should say, the Winter Soldier shows up. Um, and the funny part is, of course, that Nick Fury, who also plays Mace Windu in the Star Wars universe, Samuel L. Jackson, I should say, takes a very tiny laser sword and cuts through the road, which is, of course, totally ridiculous. I was going to say the suspension of disbelief in this movie is not, you don't need that much, but at that point you do. But
Sure.
that whole action scene, Steve arriving at home after his visit, and then he finds Nick Fury in his home. Um, and then he has to chase the Winter Soldier after because he has shot Nick Fury and killed him.
Mhm.
Um, Again, great action scenes, and it develops the story a little bit further. And you notice there's something wrong. It introduces Robert Redford in the movie. Robert Redford is in the MCU, people, as
Yeah.
Alexander Pierce. Great actor.
Hmm.
Taylor, you can tell me tons about him.
Yeah. um, First of all, the attack on Nick Fury is just a spectacular action scene, and one of the reasons this movie is one of the best in the MCU is it really does have peak of all of the best things that we expect in the MCU. The peak action scenes, peak visuals, peak acting, peak actors. Robert Redford, for crying out loud, they named a whole uh, film festival after one of his movie characters. He's that important to Hollywood and to the movie industry, and he's been around since the 1950s, appearing in many great movies and awards, and he doesn't feel that being a comic book villain is beneath him. So the world needs to take note of that. Um, and a lot of other great cast in this movie, of course. Also, we got Sebastian Stan, of course, as Bucky Barnes. Kobe Smulders as Maria Hill is back. Frank Grillo, who later becomes another one of those side villain characters, Crossbones. Emily Van Camp as Kate. I guess she's like Carter's grandnephew or grandniece, I should say. I can never remember the exact relationship, but she's related to Peggy Carter. Toby Jones as Dr. Zola, who of course is the callback from uh, the first Avenger that links these two stories.
Yeah.
Stan Lee's in this movie. There's a surprise. But Jenny Agutter as one of the Shield, whatever they're that I don't know what they call them, directors or whatever they're
Yeah.
called. That group committee uh, is in it. And I believe Powers Booth appears in this movie also. I know
Yes,
he's
yes,
in
he
yeah,
does.
yeah, and he comes back in Agents of Shield also in the same character. But anyway,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a great cast. And I didn't till you said it. I never really made the connection between the tiny lightsaber and Samuel L. Jackson playing Mace Windu. But that's cool to make that connection.
yeah,
But then, of course, the introduction of the Winter Soldier himself was again picture perfect. The character moments, you know, when when Steve eventually finds out that it's Bucky, and the great line, "Who's Bucky?" Because Sebastian Sib, which then establishes this character and his arc that's going to go forward over many movies to come.
yeah.
What has he been through? Why doesn't he remember? What happened to this poor guy who was Steve's best friend in World War II? Again, it's all just set up very well. It's all paced very well. The plotting is all extremely good. And then, of course, when it all falls apart, and you know, first of all, I just want to mention that I believe in that attack scene on
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury. Thank you, on Nick Fury. I believe that's the first time in the IP that we really see what a total badass Nick Fury is. He's not just sitting behind a chair or standing around giving orders and making plans. He kicks ass in that scene.
I would like to mention in the opening scene in the Avengers, he jumps out of a helicopter and shoots at with a little gun at a fleeing jeep. But
Yep, that's right. I forgot that. So yeah, that's
yeah,
another great scene.
and
But
of
then
course
what
he used the what is it the hand cannon to blast a fighter jet out of the sky.
mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah,
So
so
he was kind of badass all before.
yeah, he is always badass, but he was extra badass in this scene.
Absolutely.
But then of course he gets injured and he kind of gets taken off the board, and then Steve and Black Widow kind of have to dig into what exactly is going on because they know that something bad is happening. I can't remember. I didn't get a chance to actually rewatch the movie for this podcast, but I've seen it several times. I'm trying to remember the exact point when they realize that it's actually Hydra that is behind it all. I can't remember if that was in the bunker with the computer or if they knew
Yes.
before that.
Yes, of course. Steve, after Nick Fury dies, goes to confront Alexander Pierce, and
hmm
then we have another awesome fight scene in an elevator.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, taking on 10 guys and winning, I like it. Jumping
And how
50
he
meters.
asked if any of them wanted wanted to quit before they even started because he just had no fear whatsoever.
No, he kind of knew he was going to win this, but and then of course he and Black Widow go on the run. They first visit an Apple store to find out where they need to go, and then they have to go to Steve's birthplace, an army base in
hmm
New Jersey, I think.
Yep.
Um, that's the only reason you go there, and to watch Bruce Springsteen. But it's my personal taste. And after and then they find out that Hydra has infiltrated Shield. Um, did I mention we do spoilers? Yeah, well, we do spoilers. So and Zola's brain has been uploaded onto tape,
hmm
lots of tape, and talks to them and stalls them because the base gets destroyed by an airstrike ordered by Alexander Pierce.
Right.
Um, what were your thoughts on that whole sequence where Hydra all of a sudden is back and actually inside of Shield? Actually, you get that spoiler that Hydra has killed Tony Stark's father, which is
hmm
of course important for later. But tell me.
It plays out like a spy thriller type movie. Like I said, Jason Bourne or James Bond or any a number of other franchises out there, but it does that genre really really well. I was very glad the Hydra came back because Hydra is such an important part of Marvel comics in general, and that just having them be a one-off in one movie would not have satisfied all the potential that was out there. And the fact that they've been laying low for, however many decades and slowly working behind the scenes, infiltrating and controlling and pulling strings here and there, to the point now where the head of Shield is a Hydra agent, and they're going to use all of Shield's technology to take out, whatever threats they decide to take out, or whatever targets they decide to take out, and no one can stop them. How could anyone possibly stop them? They have giant helicarriers and an army, and they're controlling everything. But of course, he's Captain America, so he will stop them. Him and just a couple of friends are all they need to stop it in spectacular fashion. And again,
Yeah.
this is just why this is one of the best movies, simply because all of that is done just very expertly. The Russo brothers just did an amazing job of keeping it all tight and everything making sense and explaining where they had to and showing where they had to, as opposed to saying. And then when they, like I said, he needs some friends, so he gets, who can he trust? Well, he can trust that guy he met when he was running in the park down there, because he knows a comrade when he meets one, and he gets help and he becomes the Falcon. And Black Widow is spectacular in this. We find, of course, forgetting her name, Kate, Agent 13.
Hmm.
She, of course, is not everyone in Shield. Of course, they don't know they're working for Hydra, and when they find out, she she turns on them, and she tries to help as well. Again, it's just a spectacular story, and that's the bottom line here.
Yeah.
And then, of course, his refusal to kill Bucky, and that being his loyalty to his friend and his desire to help him and get
Hmm.
him out of it and fix whatever's wrong, not just with Shield, but with his friend as well. Of course, is his motivating factor, his driving factor, and you see all that. You see it in his facial expressions. You see it in his conversations with Bucky. How at the end he refuses to kill Bucky, and even allows Bucky to, if he wanted to, could have killed him, because that's just who he is, and you get that character so much. And so people say, Captain America, he's a Boy Scout, and all these things I'm saying. Yes, he's pretty much like a perfect character, but he doesn't feel like a cartoon perfect character. He feels like a real person who's
Hmm.
not perfect, but is perfect in so much as he is totally committed to doing good and
Yeah.
doing the right thing.
He chooses to do the right thing, and unselfish. He's not selfish.
Right,
He's
exactly.
and you feel like that comes from the heart. But that's who he is. That's why Erskine chose him back in the day to get the super serum.
Right.
Because he's a good man, and um, and that is to me why Sam Wilson is a good good Captain America, because he is a good man. So,
Absolutely.
and that's why Steve chose him. And
Yep.
um, but that's for later.
Yep.
Um, but that whole scene where they take down Hydra and Shield along with it.
Hmm.
Yeah, those helicarriers, a great action scene in the sky, of course, and with the Falcon is there, and Maria Hill is there, and the Black Widow is
Hmm.
there, and it's just
And
awesome.
Black Widow gets to use her spycraft to her advantage, being in
Yeah,
disguise and tricking Robert Redford's character.
yeah,
So again, the pieces all work together. Falcon does his part, Captain America does his part, and somehow that tiny little group of people who don't have helicarriers or fighter planes or anything like that are able to stop these helicarriers and bring them down, and it's done in such a way that it feels real. Of
yeah,
course, it's a comic book and it's it's sci-fi and it's fantasy, but the way they execute it, the audience doesn't think about that while they're watching it. They feel it. It feels real.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we can talk about the destruction porn at the end, but to me, that's fine if you have a well written story and a well very much a very good character development on a lot of people. I mean, on Sam and on Steve and even Bucky. Then I don't mind it. Then you get the outro of the movie, basically, where they set up the future for the MCU in different parts. I mean, Mariel goes off to work for Tony Stark. Steve is in the hospital with Sam alongside, and then they go on the hunt for Bucky. And
Right.
Nick Fury decides to vanish, as does Black Widow. Um,
Right. And we
and
see Bucky in the post-credit scene. I believe we see Bucky going to the museum and seeing himself, and we know that he's going to be on a journey to try to remember who he was.
yeah, uh, uh, it's a overall it's a great movie, and it has a lot of impact on the MCU as a whole and on the future of the MCU as well, which I actually
Right.
like. This is one of those tentpole movies that really forward the Infinity Saga story. Yeah.
Right. And that was, of course, in the Infinity Saga, that was kind of a hallmark where not necessarily every single movie, but almost every movie had some elements that were
hmm
driving the universe in a particular direction,
Yeah.
which is much has been much harder to see since the since the Infinity Saga ended. They doesn't seem like they've done that quite as well as they did during the Infinity Saga, but we'll see. Maybe it'll all come together in Doomsday.
Yeah, I have a feeling they did that on purpose because it's the multiverse. So
Mhm.
the connection isn't there because it's the multiverse, and we will find that out in a year, of course. 11 months now. 11 months.
Mhm.
That's
Oh,
still long.
there's actually a countdown clock on online. It's
I know.
there.
The
It's on
Doomsday
the I
Clock.
think the Marvel YouTube channel I think is has it there. You can watch
Yeah,
it. I
yeah,
mean, come on. I thought watching
yeah.
those chairs was was bad. Now they want me to watch a clock for 11 months.
Well, they do know how to market this one. But getting back to Captain America: The Winter Soldier. When you saw the movie for the first time, no doubt in the theater, when you left the theater, you must have been excited about it because you just saw an awesome comic book movie, an awesome spy thriller, an awesome Captain America movie, awesome MCU movie. At that point, it was by definition maybe the best or the second best MCU movie up until that point. So you must have been very excited when you saw that.
I was extremely excited, and at that point, Marvel had done such a great job. Now, I know there are some fans out there who weren't totally pleased with uh, um, Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3 or Thor 2, but I
hmm
had actually been pleased with all of those. But this one, like I said, it's not the best in the entire franchise, but it is among the best, and it was one of the best. Um, I walked out of there thinking, they've topped, they've pretty much topped themselves again. You always think I had thought that they couldn't get any better, and somehow this movie said, "Oh my God, the expectations are even higher now."
Yeah, I remember when I saw it. I saw it actually in Malaysia, in the city where my in-laws live, in a movie theater, and I remember distinctively that I couldn't doze off because of the movie was so great, but also because the temperature was like 12 degrees C, which is for Americans watching very cool,
Mhm.
especially in a movie theater. So it was extremely cold. I distinctly remember it, but I also remember like, okay, this movie is really awesome, and I think up until Age of Ultron, it was my most rewatched MCU movie at
Mhm.
that point, uh, just because it was so awesome. Okay, where we stand on where we leave the characters. Nick Fury actually kind of leaves the MCU at this point. He shows up here and there, but never again as a person with power or influence. In my or
Well, not for a while, not for quite a while. He doesn't show up. He doesn't seem to have much power and influence for quite some time. There's a rebuilding process, a lengthy rebuilding process to kind of rebuild Shield. It does come back in Age of Ultron, which we'll talk about later,
Mhm.
where a Shield helicarrier comes and helps
Mhm.
evacuate civilians, and Captain America I think it was Captain America made the remark about, this is what Shield is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, but we
And
don't see him in the whole phase three until I think post credit scene in Infinity War and the funeral scene in Endgame.
yeah, for Nick Fury himself, I guess you're right. I didn't realize that, but yeah, I guess you're right. He does kind of go underground for a while.
No, luckily, we got him back after Endgame in Secret Invasion.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he's definitely there.
Yeah, but anyway, Maria Hill is working for Tony Stark, another Avenger, of course. And then, yeah, Black Widow goes into hiding, but shows up again after a few movies. One actually, so
Yeah,
that didn't take long. But
and I
yeah,
think Kate go in Agent 13 go into the FBI or something. I believe she's
CIA, I think.
CIA. Yeah,
Yeah, but they already are setting up civil war at this point.
yeah, right.
And of course, we have the end credit scene where Brian von Strucker um, introduces two new superheroes as well in the MCU. Quicksilver and Wanda Maximoff. Pietro and Wanda Maximoff are being introduced in the post-credit scene in this movie. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that does of course, very much sets up Age of Ultron, where we see that Hydra is not completely destroyed. It still has remnants and cells around the world that are still doing things. And one of the things they're doing, apparently, from just by that post credit scene, is they're trying to create enhanced, superpowered people of their own.
Hmm. Yeah, one might call them mutants, but at that time, Marvel was not allowed to use that word.
Right.
But anyway, we will meet them in 2 movies time. But yeah, um, I oh, we can rate Captain America: The Winter Soldier. What number would you stick on this movie?
Yeah, this is one of the many MCU movies that is 10 out of 10. I mean, you really can't argue with it at this point. There's really nothing that you can really criticize about this movie.
No.
Now, everything's 100% subjective. So if it's not to someone's taste, that's fine. They don't enjoy the movie, that's fine. But there's no valid, objective criticism you can make of this movie, and not honestly.
I agree, and I will also give it a 10 out of 10. I hold back in my ratings for the MCU because there's so much more to come. But this movie, I cannot fault either. There's nothing I would change about this movie. There are no scene that I would scrap. Or I would say, oh, I need this. This should have been different, or no, nothing. It's not perfect. So 10 out of 10.
Absolutely.
That will end our discussion today. And I have nothing left to do than make sure you like and share this video. Subscribe to our channel. And if you want, you can join our conversation on Scarlet Freeforms.net. Just click on the link in the description. Next time, we will be hooked on a feeling, so come and get your love. We will also continue our track by reviewing Deep Space Nine Season 2 soon. And of course, we will be reviewing the Wonder Man series, the upcoming Disney Plus show. For now, I wish you all to be safe and be well. This was Grandmaster signing off.